Hey everybody, I'm back for another edition of Rambling Remedies, the first one of this year, which is really exciting. I think I started 2 years ago, but let's get into it because I'm trying not to make these super long. So I thought today a really good subject to talk about, something that I found recently on my journey, is that I find myself saying a lot of times, when we come in contact with other people, they are mirroring back to us pieces of ourselves, whether that's good, whether that's bad, whether that's ugly. And there's this exercise that I do for myself to kind of keep myself accountable and see the bigger picture, that I wanted to share with all of you. But before I got to that, I figured that I would tell you a little backstory on how I got here. So back in 2018, I was working a summer camp, that I had been to before, and I love camp. If you know me personally, you know that's where a lot of my background is. And I remember there was a specific time that came up where I was partnered with a coworker that I really wasn't a fan of. And if you know me, I do get frustrated easily, and I don't have a lot of patience, but it does take a lot for me to say, well, back then it took a lot for me to say, like, I don't like this, this person. And I wasn't always healthy with it. I wasn't able to really I wasn't really able to delve into why I didn't like people. Was just like, oh, I don't really like her. So anyway, I was working this camp and I got paired with this coworker that I really wasn't a fan of. And at some point through this whole thing, we ended up working together. I even tried to get them switched out. I was like, I don't, they don't fit with my vision. I don't want to do this. And we ended up working together. But somewhere in that, I can't remember who, and if it happens to be you and you're watching this, sorry to not be able to give you credit, but thank you. Um, I had a conversation with someone at that point, and I remember them telling me that when we bump up against people, there's often something in them that we see about ourselves that we don't like. And I don't really know how I would have reacted back then. I'm sure it was one or two extremes. I'm sure that on one hand, I probably was like, I would never be like her. Like, don't ever insult me. Or I was also still kind of in that point 2 years ago. And I'm still in that point now where I'm able to look very vulnerable to people and not actually be vulnerable. So I might have been able in that moment to say, oh, yeah, like I can see, these parts in me, but still, like, fuck her, because that's just who I am even to this day. Well, I mean, I've gotten better clearly, but anyway, back when I was told that 2 years ago, again, not remembering the reaction, it wasn't something I wanted to hear because I couldn't fathom, like, there's no way that I could be like this person. But it's amazing that 2 years later, especially with the job that I just recently left, so many times, even up to the point that I left the environment, I kept telling people I'm just the mirror. Anything you see in me, I'm reflecting back to you, and vice versa. And I take that very serious now. Like, I love that idea of, if someone's challenging me, what is it bringing up in me, but then also all the love and the kindness that comes with it. So anywho, one, I think that this is really important, again, because it's helped me, but I think it's important for a few reasons. I think one of the reasons that it's really important is because, especially as I've learned how to grow and I've learned how to heal myself, energy is really important. And don't, trust your gut. Like, my whole job that I just left was all about building my intuition and seeing through things, and I love it. It's such a good skill to have. And I think that, especially on the journey recently, of course, like all of us, I've run into memes and conversations of like, oh, if you're around someone who's upset in your spirit, you got to listen to that. That's the reason. And I think that that's true. I think the other side sometimes that we don't want to confront and talk about is that sometimes people are put in our pathways to again stir the shit up, the ugly shit up within us, for us to be able to take a look and say, like, oh, I resonate with you more than what I'm willing to admit, and I need to fix that. And obviously this is case by case basis, but I think that it's a really important skill. And again, it's something that's really helped me out a lot. And obviously I don't do this all the time. I'm not perfect. I still very much, again, if you know me personally, I'm pretty intense and I'm pretty right to the point. And even though I've learned how to cultivate that, I'm still me, at the end of the day. So I have found that this really helps. So as we wrap up, trying to keep it quick, there is something I found online a while ago that I use now, and it was just called the mirror exercise. And essentially, what you do, if you find yourself in a situation where you're, getting riled up or someone's really just bumping up against you, you go and you write about it. I'm really big on writing in general and journaling. But then the other part of it is that after you write something, you put yourself in the position to kind of help highlight what areas you need help with. So just I wrote down a really simple example. So my original fake example would be, I wish she listened more. I don't feel heard when I talk to her. And then when you do the mirror part of the exercise, it now reads, I wish I listened more. I don't feel heard when I talk to myself. And it's so simple, but it's so powerful. And when I first did the exercise, I didn't know what to expect. So I was a lot more authentic, with what I was writing. I was like, holy moly. But even though I now know how this turns out, like, it's amazing how I can still do this exercise with people and interactions and say, like, oh, well, like, I'm not honoring myself. I know something for me specifically. I love being the center of attention. I will always be that way. I'm okay with always being that way. What I'm not okay with, as people come into my path, is that I never realized how that came off to other people in my younger years, and even now, like, I still love being the center of attention. I still find myself, where I feel left out of the group, where I feel left out in the conversation. I'll just say like random stuff, to get it back on me. But it's just so interesting because now that I have this insight, I'm able to say, oh, well, I don't really like when this person acts like that because it reminds me when I used to act like that and when I wasn't as aware of how it affected other people. And is causing me to go in, and this teaches me not just to have grace with myself but also have grace with other people. And it's amazing, you get more bees with honey than you do salt, right? So I just, I thought that was a good way to bring stuff in, and like I said, it's definitely changed my life. So yeah, so that's the really quick exercise, and I hope to be making more videos, and like I said before, please, whether, if you know me personally, I'm pretty open, even though I'm trying to be careful the way that I advocate now, but anything, the goal of this channel was always just to be honest and be vulnerable and be raw, and talk about the topics that aren't talked about. But as I am in more of a healing energy, and as my journey is starting to look different, it's not always going to be specifically about intimate partner violence or, the bad days. Like, I also, part of me being authentic to my journey and to all of you was to also broadcast the good days. And I feel like I'm kind of in a space where I'm being asked to definitely broadcast the good days. So I hope you liked it. If there's anything, you would like me to cover, please let me know. And other than that, please just stick it out with me.